𴫨 it's your girl Haitian Mommy, and you already know what time it is. Today, I'm bringing y'all into a powerful, emotional, and beautifully real story. One that had me tearing up and clapping all at the same time. When you look at, we're talking family, healing, and Black girl magic all up in these pages. Trust me, you're gonna feel this one. This ain't just a book, it's a journey. And if you've ever had to fight for your peace, this one's for you. So do me a favor, go ahead and like, comment, and of course subscribe so you don't miss the next drop. Hit that bell too, boo.
Baldwin Hills, Sunday afternoon. The pavement sizzles under the relentless California sun as kids run barefoot through the sprinklers, screeching in delight. Lawn chairs line the sidewalk like sentinels. A group of uncles play dominoes near the grill, slamming down each tile like a drumbeat. The air smells of barbecue smoke, incense, coconut hair oil, and hot gossip. Inside Patricia and Kenneth Duvall's two-story home, the atmosphere is just as hot, both in temperature and tension. The living room is crowded, a sea of paper plates, red cups, and plastic cutlery. The fan oscillates uselessly above a conversation louder than it needs to be. Simone Duvall walks in with a bottle of imported wine and a designer tote, dressed in high-waisted palazzo pants, gold hoops, and a crisp silk blouse. Her heels click like a warning shot across the tile floor. She's greeted not with warmth, but with mockery, disguised as familiarity. Tamika, her cousin, loud as ever and fully made up despite the heat, smirks like she's been waiting for this moment. "Damn, Simone. Still ain't bring no man? Not even a lil baby bump? What you got, a cat or something?" Laughter erupts. Someone fake coughs. Frozen eggs. Simone offers a tight smile. She kisses cheeks, hugs aunties drenched in White Diamond's perfume, and nods at uncles who barely look up from their spades game. The house is filled with judgment disguised as tradition. As she tries to fix a plate of food, collard greens, candied yams, ribs slathered in homemade sauce, her mother, Patricia, cuts through the noise with her signature venom. "You know, even your sister had a baby, and she was out her mind on them pills. What's your excuse?" Someone nearby adds fuel. "At least Yvette gave us Jada." The room erupts in chuckles, but it hits Simone like a slap. Not the words, the hypocrisy, the smugness. Her fork hovers over the macaroni and cheese. "And where's Jada now?" she says, voice sharp, cutting through the laughter. Silence. "She in the system, right? Didn't nobody think to go get her?" No one meets her gaze. Everyone suddenly finds interest in their plates, phones, or the baby crying in the next room. Her heart tightens like a vice. For all their noise and big talk about family, they let a 9-year-old vanish into foster care. That's the moment something changes. In her gut, she knows. If no one else will step up for Jada, she will. Simone stepped into her apartment like a ghost, closing the door gently behind her. The clink of her keys dropping into the ceramic dish by the door echoed through the spacious loft. High ceilings, exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows, every detail of her home screamed success. African sculptures and bold contemporary paintings lined the walls. A wine rack glowed with LED lights, softly illuminating her curated collection. But tonight, it felt cold, empty. She peeled off her heels, loosened her bun, and poured herself a glass of Bordeaux. The first sip lingered on her tongue, bitter and earthy. She sank into her velvet sectional and pulled her laptop onto her lap. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Jada Renee Duvall. The search results loaded slowly. Government site, foster system database. As she clicked through, a photo appeared. Jada's school ID, brown skin, almond-shaped eyes dulled with distrust. Hair frizzy and uneven, lips set in a tight line. She looked tired. Simone blinked rapidly. The screen blurred as her eyes filled with tears. She clicked into Jada's profile. Placement history. Foster home, number 1. Reported pantry restrictions. Foster home, number 2. Not attending school regularly. Group home, number 3. Emotional outbursts, withdrawn. Simone's stomach turned. A 9-year-old, bounced around like unwanted furniture. Simone scrolled through the notes. Draws often, withdrawn but nonviolent, scared of loud male voices, responds to art therapy. That last line made her pause. Simone's gallery had hosted youth art showcases. She remembered how kids came alive with a brush in hand. Her mind flashed to the last time she saw Jada, a toddler, maybe 3 years old, reaching for Simone's gold hoops, calling her Momo. Her eyes closed, the weight of shame and anger pressed against her chest. By midnight, she had filled out the interest form for prospective guardians. Name, address, income, occupation, references. She scanned in her driver's license, uploaded her background check from her last overseas trip, and even added a letter explaining her relationship to the child. At the bottom, a small checkbox asked, "Would you be interested in full adoption should reunification with the biological parent be deemed unfit?" Simone hesitated for only a moment before she clicked yes. She hit submit. The confirmation screen blinked once, then loaded. "Thank you for your submission. A social worker will be in contact within 3 to 5 business days." Simone closed the laptop, turned off the lamp, and sat in the dark. Outside, the skyline of Los Angeles glittered. But in her soul, a fire had lit, something unshakable. Jada was not going to be lost, not on her watch. Simone arrived at the group home 30 minutes early, parked in her electric sedan, and stared at the gated entry with the heavy feeling of stepping into a battlefield. It wasn't the building's exterior that rattled her. The place looked more like a rundown office than a home. But the idea of seeing Jada again, older, hardened, a girl with memories too jagged to hug easily. Inside, the air smelled like bleach, microwaved food, and something faintly sour. A weary-looking woman at the front desk handed her a visitor badge and buzzed the door open. Simone stepped into a gray hallway lined with faded murals, drawn years ago by hands that had since aged out or disappeared. The visit room was sterile. Vinyl chairs, a scratched table, a security camera in the corner. Simone set down a sketch pad and some colored pencils she brought as a peace offering. She folded her hands in her lap, tapping her ring finger nervously against her palm. The door opened. Jada walked in slowly, shoulders hunched beneath a navy hoodie that nearly swallowed her. She paused, eyes flicking from the sketch pad to Simone. Simone rose slowly. "Hey, I'm your Aunt Simone." Jada tilted her head. "You look different." Simone smiled softly. "I get that a lot." Jada sat at the table, dropping her backpack to the floor with a thud. She didn't speak, but she didn't leave either. "I brought some art stuff," Simone offered. Jada's fingers twitched slightly before pulling the sketch pad toward her. She flipped to a blank page. No thanks, no smile, just quiet acceptance. Minutes passed. Simone asked simple questions. Favorite color? Favorite show? Jada gave one-word answers. Purple. Steven Universe. She drew as she spoke, rough strokes, fast lines. Simone recognized it immediately. A bird, wings half folded. "That's beautiful," Simone whispered. "It's not done," Jada snapped. Then more softly, "It's a phoenix." Simone's heart lifted. "Phoenixes are strong. They rise again, right?" Jada didn't answer, but she drew faster. By the end of the hour, they'd barely touched the snacks Simone brought, but something had cracked. Jada looked up before she left. "You coming back?" Simone nodded, voice steady despite her pounding heart. "Every week." Jada gave the smallest nod in return, then turned and left. In the parking lot, Simone leaned against her car and cried, not from sadness, from hope. Something was breaking through, and this time she wasn't letting go. The following week, Simone sat across from attorney Rosa Mendez in a polished Wilshire Boulevard office filled with wall-to-wall law books and sun-bleached certificates. Rosa was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, and had a no-nonsense attitude Simone appreciated. She wore her curly hair pulled into a low bun and had a calm, assured energy that made clients feel protected. "I'm going to be blunt," Rosa began, glancing over the preliminary forms Simone had brought with her. "Taking on a child from the system, especially one with a living parent who hasn't had their rights terminated, will not be easy. You're up against red tape, delays, possibly even family interference." "I'm not worried about hard," Simone replied firmly. "I'm worried about Jada." They went over the logistics. Legal guardianship versus full adoption. The steps required: home assessments, financial proof, interviews, parenting classes. Rosa warned her about scrutiny. "They'll go through your house with a magnifying glass, question your motivations, pick at your schedule. You're a single woman with no parenting history. That's a red flag in their book." Simone nodded. "Let them look. I've got nothing to hide." And so began the real process. Simone dove in with the kind of focus she usually reserved for high-stakes gallery openings. She gathered every document requested: tax returns for the past 5 years, letters of recommendation from her university and art community, even a notarized letter from her therapist affirming her mental and emotional readiness for parenthood. When the social worker arrived for the home study, Simone had cleaned every inch of her luxury apartment, made organic snacks, and stocked her bookshelves with child development books. She gave the woman a tour, pointing out Jada's potential bedroom, the private art studio, the child-friendly furniture she'd already started sourcing. "You have a very elevated space," the woman noted, jotting notes on a clipboard. "I wanted her to know she's worth beauty, worth space." The woman raised an eyebrow, but nodded. 3 weeks later, the real test came. A letter, official and cold, from her parents, Patricia and Kenneth Duval, filed with the Department of Children and Family Services. The letter was damning, filled with cutting phrases: unfit, self-centered, unrealistic, seeking to play mother without understanding sacrifice. Simone read it 3 times, each word slashing deeper than the last. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She forwarded it to Rosa and went back to preparing Jada's new comforter set. She was hurt, yes, but she was also grounded. She knew this was about more than bloodlines and tradition. This was about choosing a child who had already been left behind one too many times. When Rosa called to set the court hearing, Simone felt a quiet certainty settle in her bones. Whatever it took, she would fight, not just for custody, but for a new legacy. Downtown Los Angeles courthouse stood tall and intimidating under gray skies. Its columns loomed like silent judges, daring anyone who entered to prove they belonged. Simone arrived early, dressed in a dove gray suit tailored to perfection, her braids pulled back into a low bun. Rosa walked beside her in a deep blue sheath dress, exuding the same poised energy that had calmed Simone during their many late-night prep calls. They waited outside Department 403, a narrow courtroom tucked on the 4th floor. The hallway buzzed with activity, lawyers pacing, social workers talking into headsets, family members whispering frantically. Simone's heart pounded behind her ribs like a war drum. Rosa squeezed her shoulder. "Stay composed. They'll try to make you emotional. We show them facts." Inside, the courtroom was unimpressive. Peeling paint, humming lights, worn wooden pews. But the energy? It was sharp. Ms. Barton, Jada's social worker, sat in the front row with a thick case folder in her lap. Across the aisle sat Simone's parents, Patricia in a beige pantsuit and stiff pearls, Kenneth in a navy blazer, his hands folded like he was attending a funeral. Their expressions were unreadable. Simone refused to look away. The judge, a no-nonsense black woman named Judge Everly, called the session to order. "We are here to review the guardianship and potential adoption petition filed by Ms. Simone Duval on behalf of minor Jada Renee Duval." Rosa stood and began calmly but confidently. "Your Honor, my client is not only financially stable, but emotionally grounded and already deeply bonded with the child. Ms. Duval has proven through multiple supervised visits, a successful home study, and school reports that Jada is thriving under her care. Simone sat still, hands folded tightly in her lap. She could feel Patricia's eyes burning into her. Ms. Barton testified first. Since reuniting with Ms. Duval, Jada's emotional stability has shown remarkable improvement. She's attending school regularly, showing new interest in reading, and her artwork has become more expressive. She refers to Ms. Duval as her mother. She's no longer withdrawn. In fact, she's one of the most promising young artists I've worked with in recent years. The judge scribbled notes. Then Patricia took the stand. Her voice was syrupy sweet, but full of blades. We love our granddaughter, but Simone is impulsive. She's never been around children. She's unmarried. She travels constantly, and frankly, she's more interested in status than family. This child needs stability, not a makeshift parent. Simone's jaw clenched, but she didn't flinch. Rosa objected. Speculation and personal opinion. Sustained, the judge said. Kenneth didn't speak. He just nodded solemnly when Patricia stepped down. Then came Uncle Harold. Simone hadn't asked him to speak. He offered. He walked up slowly, dressed in a pressed suit and polished shoes, his veteran's pin glinting under the courtroom lights. I'm not here to speak as her uncle. I'm here as a man who watched this family ignore that little girl until Simone showed up. She drove across this damn city every week just to sit with Jada and talk about feelings and cartoons. Ain't nobody else showed up. Not one of them. He looked directly at Patricia and Kenneth. You don't get to abandon someone and then critique the person who showed up. Simone's throat tightened. Then it was her turn. She stood slowly. Every breath felt measured. I'm not perfect. I'm not pretending to be. But I see Jada. I see her pain, her talent, her strength. I've changed my life to make space for her. This isn't charity. This is love. Real love. The kind that stays. The courtroom was silent when she sat down. Judge Everly reviewed her notes for what felt like forever. Then, based on the overwhelming evidence of the child's bond, emotional well-being, and the home environment provided, the court grants temporary guardianship to Ms. Duval. Full adoption proceedings will proceed under supervised recommendation. Simone exhaled sharply. Rosa smiled. Patricia shook her head, lips pursed in disgust. Kenneth walked out without a word. Simone didn't care. She had won something no amount of status or legacy could touch. She had claimed her family. The ride home from the courthouse was quiet but full of electricity. Jada sat in the passenger seat, eyes wide as the city blurred past. Simone stole glances at her, watching her absorb this new reality. They pulled up to Simone's Culver City loft, just before sunset, the sky bleeding orange and pink. This is where I live, Simone said gently. Jada stared up at the building's sleek lines and big glass windows. It's big. Not too big for two. They stepped inside. The scent of vanilla, eucalyptus, and fresh paint hung in the air. Simone had been preparing for this day, but now it felt sacred. Jada kicked off her shoes cautiously, her eyes darting around the modern space with curiosity and hesitation. Simone led her down a hallway toward a door covered in gold-lettered decals. Jada's room. You want to open it? Jada hesitated, then slowly turned the knob. The room glowed with warmth and thoughtfulness. Lavender walls, fairy lights twinkling above the ceiling, a soft white shag rug, a pink canopy bed with matching pillows, and a reading nook by the window stacked with Black Girl Magic picture books. On the desk was a framed photo of Jada at age 3, the only one Simone could find from Yvette's chaotic Facebook album. Jada stepped in silently, running her fingers across the edges of the desk, touching the bedding. She turned to Simone. This mine? Yours. All of it. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. The way her shoulders relaxed, the way her fingers paused on the sparkly throw pillow, it said enough. Simone gave her space and went to prepare dinner. When she returned an hour later, Jada was curled up in the reading nook, flipping through a book about dreamers and revolutionaries. After dinner, mac and cheese, baked salmon, and buttered green beans, they curled up on the couch for movie night. Jada picked The Princess and the Frog. Halfway through, she leaned her head on Simone's arm. Simone didn't move, afraid any motion would break the moment. As the credits rolled, Jada whispered, "Good night, Mom." Simone froze. She turned slowly, her voice cracking. "Say that again?" Jada looked at her, eyes calm. "Good night, Mom." Simone didn't cry right then. She waited until Jada was asleep in her new bed, her arm flung across the stuffed animal Simone had placed there days ago. Then she sat in the hallway and let the tears fall. It wasn't just a title. It was a vow. She had earned this, and she would fight to keep it. The early weeks of Jada's new life with Simone unfolded like a quiet miracle. Gone were the cold walls and metal beds of the group home. Now, mornings began with warm banana pancakes, their kitchen filled with the scent of cinnamon and laughter. They played R&B on the speaker, danced in socks across the kitchen tile. It was the kind of life that looked soft from the outside, but inside, the healing had only begun. School, as Simone feared, became the battleground. The first incident came on a Tuesday. Jada came home with her hoodie pulled over her head and her sketchbook missing. "What happened?" Simone asked gently. "Nothing." Simone crouched beside her. "Where's your book?" Jada's jaw clenched. "Jaden tore it up. He said I was a fake, said only real families have art rooms." Simone hugged her close. That night, they started a new sketchbook together, one that Jada named the Comeback Book. The bullying didn't stop. "Crack, baby. Your mom didn't want you. That's your aunt? So where your real mama at?" The questions came like paper cuts, tiny but relentless. Simone met with the principal. She signed Jada up for counseling and found a black trauma-informed therapist who came to the loft twice a week. Jada was guarded at first, but slowly she opened up. Her drawings shifted, less fire, more faces, faces that smiled, faces that looked like hers. Academics were a struggle too. Years of disrupted schooling had left Jada behind in reading and math. Simone hired a private tutor, Ms. Layla, who came every Tuesday and Thursday. She made learning a game, flashcards with glitter pens, songs for spelling. "I'm not dumb," Jada whispered one evening. "I never said you were," Simone replied. "But they do, at school. They don't know your story, but you do, and that makes you stronger than all of them." That same week, something changed. Jada came home with a smile. "I met some girls, Maya and Serenity. They like art. One plays piano, the other sings." Simone raised a brow. "The Ink Sisters, huh?" Jada grinned. "That's what we call ourselves." For the first time in weeks, her laugh rang out, loud and unguarded. They began practicing for the school's annual talent and art showcase. The girls planned to perform an original song while Jada painted live on stage. Jada drew for hours, mixing colors, sketching ideas, creating a mural that told her story without words. Simone watched from the kitchen doorway, silently praying for one thing: peace, even if it came in small doses. Every night they had rituals, bedtime books, warm tea, prayers for protection. And every night, Jada whispered, "Good night, Mom." Each time Simone heard it, it reminded her that even in the rough middle, they were still building something sacred. It began with a blocked call. Simone's phone buzzed late one Thursday evening as she was folding laundry in the living room, a jazz playlist humming softly in the background. She didn't answer the first time, or the second. But the third time, something in her gut told her to pick up. "Hello?" A pause, then a raspy voice crackling through the static. "You think you can just take my daughter and not talk to me?" Simone froze. She knew the voice. "Yvette. I don't know how you got this number, but she's my kid. You don't get to make that call. I'm still her mother." The line went dead. Simone stood still for a long time, the phone trembling in her hand. The warmth of the home around her, the soft rug, the lemon-scented air, the freshly folded towels, suddenly felt vulnerable. She called Rosa immediately. Within 48 hours, Rosa had filed an emergency notice with the court. Yvette had no legal rights to Jada. But that didn't mean she couldn't cause chaos, harassment, emotional sabotage, and worse, confuse Jada. "I want to protect her," Simone said, "but I don't want to lie to her either." Rosa nodded. "Then we need boundaries. Supervised contact only. On your terms, or not at all." When Simone sat Jada down and told her that her birth mother had reached out, Jada's face drained of color. "She wants to see me?" "Yes, but only if you want that, and only with a therapist present." Jada didn't answer right away. She stared out the window at the city lights. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." 2 weeks later, Jada agreed to a supervised visit. It was scheduled at a neutral facility. Colorful walls, a counselor in the room, 2 cameras on every corner. Yvette showed up 20 minutes late in a denim jacket and glossy wig, nerves fraying every word. "Hey, baby girl," she said. Jada sat with her arms crossed. Her body was there, but her spirit hovered elsewhere. "I know I messed up. I was sick. I didn't mean to leave you like that. You believe me, right?" Jada stared. "Why didn't you come get me?" "I tried. I was gonna, but it got bad. And then I thought maybe you were better off." Silence. The counselor interjected gently. "Jada, you don't have to respond." But Jada did, her voice barely above a whisper. "I have a mom now. She shows up." Yvette blinked fast, fighting tears. "You still my baby?" Jada shook her head. "No, I was. Not anymore." When the visit ended, Jada walked straight to Simone and wrapped her arms around her waist like a vice. They didn't talk on the ride home. Didn't need to. Back at the loft, Jada sat on the couch under her favorite blanket. "She's gonna keep trying, huh?" Simone nodded. "Maybe, but she doesn't get to take you back. That's not how this works." Jada looked up. "You sure?" Simone leaned down and kissed her forehead. "I'm sure." That night, Jada slept soundly. And Simone? Simone stayed up just a little longer, filing every legal form, every emergency contact, every updated document. Because love wasn't just warm dinners and bedtime books. It was protection, preparation, and never letting go. The next chapter in their journey didn't start with a celebration. It began with silence. The kind of silence that hangs in the air when wounds are still healing but no longer bleeding. For days after the supervised visit with Yvette, Jada moved like a ghost through the apartment. She still called Simone Mom, still came in for nightly cuddles. But something was heavy in her chest. Simone didn't pry. She let the silence be what it was, sacred space. Instead, she focused on anchoring the routine. Breakfast every morning, oatmeal with blueberries and a sprinkle of brown sugar, journaling after therapy, movie night every Friday. Slowly, the color returned to Jada's cheeks, not just physically, but emotionally. The haunted look faded. Her shoulders began to relax again. She laughed louder. She started painting again. One Saturday morning, while Simone was cleaning the studio, she found a sketch tucked under a pile of scrap paper. It was a drawing of 2 figures, one smaller, wrapped in a blanket of wild vines and thorns, the other taller, standing over them with an umbrella made of brushstrokes. In the corner, Jada had written, "The shelter I needed." Simone didn't say anything. She simply framed it and hung it on the wall outside Jada's room. When Jada noticed it, she stared for a long time, then whispered, "You weren't supposed to see that." Simone smiled. "I'm glad I did." From that moment on, something shifted. Jada opened up more during therapy. She spoke about her time in foster care, how she'd learned to sleep with one eye open, how she stopped speaking in certain homes just to avoid getting moved again. She talked about the teachers who ignored her, the kids who laughed at her clothes, the grown-ups who only remembered her when it was time for a social media photo. "But you're not like them," 𝐁𝐤 told 𝐿 one night. "You don't treat me like charity. You don't post me like I'm a good deed." 𝐿 held her hand gently. "That's because you're not a cause. You're a person. You're my person." 𝐁𝐤 began introducing 𝐿 as her mother without hesitation. At school, at therapy, even at the corner store. "This, my mom," she said to the cashier once. "She bougie, but she cook good." 𝐿 laughed so hard she almost dropped her organic almond milk. The bond was no longer tentative. It was real. Woven. When school assigned a family tree project, 𝐁𝐤 brought it home nervously. 𝐿 offered to help. Instead of branches, 𝐁𝐤 painted roots, each labeled with a word: safety, love, art, patience, mom. At the center of the tree, she placed a portrait of 𝐿. "Is this okay?" 𝐁𝐤 asked, voice small. 𝐿 cupped her face in her hands. "It's perfect." Because for the first time, neither of them was pretending. 𝐁𝐤 wasn't just surviving anymore. She was rooted. And 𝐿? She was no longer just protecting. She was mothering. Spring rolled into summer, and the sun soaked the city in golden light, but not everything was bright inside 𝐿's world. While her bond with 𝐁𝐤 grew stronger each day, the pressure from her biological family reached a boiling point. It started with a Facebook post, a passive-aggressive status from her cousin 𝐀𝐤𝐧'𝐭 that read, "Some folks think buying a kid a bed makes them a mother. Newsflash, blood don't lie." It was vague to outsiders, but 𝐿 knew exactly who it was about. The likes and shady comments rolled in, heart emojis from Patricia, a from her Aunt Dolores, even Kenneth added a sad face reaction. 𝐿 didn't reply. She never did, but it stung. Next came the letter. Thick envelope. Fancy cursive. Another condemnation from her parents, only this time signed by 6 extended family members. They accused her of stealing 𝐁𝐤 from her real mother, of trying to erase history, and of playing savior. 𝐿 read it slowly at her kitchen counter, each word chipping away at the last bits of hope she had left for reconciliation. She placed the letter down beside a bowl of fresh oranges, took a deep breath, and walked to her laptop. Then calmly, she typed one final message. "To my family, this is the last time I will explain myself. I didn't steal 𝐁𝐤. I found her abandoned by the very people writing this letter. While y'all were busy posting about loyalty and bloodlines, I was holding her through night terrors, cleaning up the shattered pieces of her childhood, and showing up when no one else did. I am not erasing history. I am protecting her from repeating it. If that makes me the villain in your eyes, so be it. But in hers, I'm the one who stayed. We're done." She hit send and blocked every last one of them. That night, as she read, "The people could fly to 𝐁𝐤 on their velvet couch," she noticed the girl staring up at her longer than usual. "You good?" 𝐿 asked. 𝐁𝐤 nodded. "You ain't sad they don't come around no more?" 𝐿 paused, then set the book in her lap. "I used to be. But now, no. I got what I need right here." 𝐁𝐤 reached over, curled her fingers into 𝐿's. "Me too." In the quiet afterward, 𝐿 realized something else. You could sever blood and still bleed less than when you kept trying to hold on to people who never protected you in the first place. That summer, 𝐁𝐤 bloomed. She got her first A in reading. She started making smoothies and demanded 𝐿 rate them. They took weekend trips to bookstores, volunteered at art camps, and started a tiny herb garden on the balcony. One afternoon, 𝐿 looked out from the loft's balcony and whispered to herself, "This is my family now." Not the one she came from, the one she built. The first day of school in September arrived with a buzz of nerves and glitter glue. 𝐁𝐤 stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her twist out for the 5th time, while 𝐿 packed her lunch, sun butter sandwich, cucumber slices, a banana, and a handwritten note tucked into the napkin. "You got this, superstar. Mom." This wasn't just any school day, it was Showcase Day. The annual Fall Arts and Talent Showcase was a major event at Booker T. Washington Academy. Parents filled the multi-purpose room wearing everything from business suits to bedazzled hoodies, armed with phones ready to capture every note and paint stroke. The school was transformed into a gallery and stage, with student art on folding easels and music echoing through the hallways. Jada had been working on her piece for weeks, a mural titled "Home Ain't Blood," blending graffiti textures with watercolor portraits. It featured two figures, a child with galaxy eyes and a woman sheltering her beneath a golden umbrella. In the corner was a small phoenix. She would live paint on stage while her new friends Maya and Serenity performed an original spoken-word poem over piano. Simone arrived early, clutching her camera and a bouquet of purple irises. She took her seat near the front, flanked by Ms. Layla and Jada's therapist Rhonda. The room buzzed with chatter, the smell of fresh markers and cafeteria pizza thick in the air. When the lights dimmed, a hush fell. Maya began the poem. Serenity followed with haunting keys, and then Jada stepped on stage. She didn't look nervous. She looked ready, focused. She moved with intention, brush in hand, as her painting bloomed across the canvas. The audience watched in awe as gold bled into midnight blue, the phoenix rising through soft storm clouds. The crowd burst into applause as the lights came up. Jada beamed, eyes shining, cheeks glowing. Simone stood and clapped with everything in her. "That's my baby!" she shouted, unable to hold it back. But then, out of the corner of her eye, Simone saw her, Yvette, in the back row, hood up, sunglasses on, leaning against the wall like a shadow. Simone's smile faltered. After the showcase, while everyone buzzed about Jada's piece, Simone pulled the principal aside. Security escorted Yvette from the premises, quietly, cleanly, but not before she locked eyes with Jada. Jada stiffened. "Was that?" Simone nodded slowly. "She's not supposed to be here, and she won't be again." Back home, Jada sat on the couch gripping her sketchbook. Why won't she stop? Simone knelt in front of her. Because people who lose control want it back, even when they don't deserve it. Jada leaned forward, whispering, "I don't want to go nowhere." "You're not," Simone promised. "You're home, and I will fight every day to make sure it stays that way." Later that night, Jada received an email from the school. She had won the Showcase's Visual Voice Award. It came with a scholarship to a weekend youth artist retreat in Malibu. Jada looked up from the screen, eyes wide. "I get to go?" Simone grinned. "You earned it." Jada ran into her arms, and for a brief, beautiful moment, Yvette's shadow couldn't touch them. The Malibu coastline shimmered like polished glass under a clear September sky. Waves crashed rhythmically against the shore while seabirds darted through the wind. The air smelled like salt and eucalyptus. Jada sat on a driftwood bench in a wide-brimmed hat and paint-stained hoodie, a blank canvas balanced across her knees. She was one of 10 students selected for the weekend artist retreat. The location, an arts conservatory nestled on a cliffside campus with ocean views, quiet pine trails, and open-air studios. It was a place built for imagination, a sanctuary for young creatives. Simone had driven her there early Friday morning. The 2-hour ride was filled with nervous giggles and talk of what Jada should paint. Simone had to remind herself not to hover too much. Jada was growing up, finding her voice, taking up space. Still, when it came time to say goodbye, Simone lingered. "You'll call me if anything feels off, right?" Jada smiled. "Yes, Mom." Simone kissed her forehead, then whispered, "Shine so bright, they can't look away." Over the weekend, Jada painted ocean spirits, told stories through brushstrokes, and collaborated with other kids who spoke the same visual language. She made a friend named Aria, who liked drawing comics, and another named Lino, who built sculptures out of scrap metal. On the final day, the conservatory hosted a closing show for families. Simone drove up early, camera in hand. Jada's piece was the centerpiece, a massive canvas called I Belong Here. It featured waves wrapping protectively around a small figure with fire in her hands, staring down a storm in the sky. When Jada saw Simone enter, she waved proudly. "I wanted to show them what it feels like when you make your own family," she said. Simone blinked away tears. "You did more than show them. You showed me." The event ended with speeches and goodbyes, hugs exchanged like currency. Simone and Jada walked to the car, sand stuck to their shoes. In the quiet drive home, Jada rested her head on Simone's shoulder at a red light. "I don't need her anymore," she said softly. "I got you." Simone gripped the steering wheel tighter, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "I got you too, always." They rode the rest of the way home with the windows down, Malibu wind tangling their hair, the sky streaked with pinks and golds, the colors of healing. 2 weeks after the Malibu retreat, an envelope arrived on Simone's doorstep. It was thick, cream-colored, with the emblem of the California Department of Family and Child Services embossed in gold. Her breath hitched as she turned it over. Jada was still at school. Simone sat at the kitchen counter, surrounded by the scent of lavender oil and the low hum of an R&B playlist. She broke the seal with shaking fingers. Inside were the final adoption papers. Approval granted, rights transferred, judge's signature inked in dark blue. It was official. Simone Duval was now, legally and irrevocably, Jada Renee Duval's mother. She covered her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. All the months of court visits, trauma recovery, therapy sessions, sleepless nights, and whispered bedtime reassurances, it was all solidified in 3 pages of government-printed truth. She texted Rosa, "It's done." Rosa responded instantly, "Congratulations, Mama, you did that." Simone placed the papers in a folder and lit a candle by the window. She sat in silence, letting the gravity of it settle. Then she got to work. That evening, when Jada walked through the door, she immediately smelled the cornbread. "What's all this?" she asked, dropping her backpack. Simone wore a wide smile and held out a blue envelope. Jada opened it slowly. Inside was a handmade certificate. Forever. Officially. Mom plus daughter. With stickers and glitter. "We're locked in, baby," Simone said, voice trembling. "It's all real. You're mine. Forever." Jada blinked, stunned. Then she screamed. Not out of fear, but joy. She jumped into Simone's arms, knocking them both into a laugh-filled heap on the couch. "Can we frame the paper?" she asked. "We'll put it in gold," Simone promised. They celebrated with a living room picnic, mac and cheese, sparkling cider, and cupcakes from Jada's favorite bakery. Later, they danced barefoot to Lizzo and read from a new book, Hair Love, by candlelight. As the night wound down, Jada crawled into Simone's lap. "I used to think families had to look a certain way," she whispered. Simone kissed her curls. "We created our own shape." "Like art?" "Exactly like art." Jada nodded. "I like our version better." Simone smiled, feeling the truth of that in her bones. Outside, the city shimmered as if blessing the life they had built. Not born from tradition, but choice. Not forced, but fought for. Simone held her daughter close and whispered into her hair, "You saved me too." And the room, the world, their future, it all felt exactly as it should.
All right, y'all, that's it for today's story. But let me know, did you feel some type of way when Jada locked eyes with Yvette? Or when Simone whispered, "Shine so bright they can't look away"? Drop your favorite moment down in the comments. Don't be shy. I want to know what hit you the hardest. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, okay? And go ahead and smash that bell so you never miss a story with heart, drama, and all that Haitian mommy flavor. Till next time, keep shining, keep dreaming, and keep reading.